Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer, and welcome back to PCM21. It's career mode. We're on episode number 8. We are going to enter the signing period momentarily. First off, though, we have GP Crunch. We need a top 10 for this one. It's the last sponsor objective, but of course, after the easy circumstances surrounding the national championships and multiple wins there, we're looking quite comfortable. Zervis, meanwhile, though, hit a crash. Set him to relay. Please get moving. He does. Okay. Be alright. 5 riders who went down. 1 got back up a little bit faster than the other 4. You can see all of them on their way back towards the pack for now. Meanwhile, let's get these guys settled down. So you can see Uribe no longer in the National Championships jersey, as it was a climbing championship in Japan this year, and he is no climber. But you can see Ray Lanu has a jersey, Wang has a jersey. So many riders now with national championship jerseys. Meanwhile, Zervis not too far behind the Peloton now, and especially with the breakaway beginning to become established, it should be a little bit easier. There's definitely undulation today, but it hopefully will come down to a sprint in the end, which will give Uribe a chance at least getting that top 10, if not a little bit higher. You can see, though, some blinking red on the 75. They're still not too pleased with the formation of the breakaway right now. A lot of lefts and rights here. A lot of rolling corners. It's going to be an interesting finish. Anyway, let's go ahead and set this up. Uribe, obviously one guy we want to ride for. And then we want to ride for Ray Lanu. And Zervis should be the other one.
A rider is down.
Gisha has a 64 flat. Is that going to be our next best guy?
Thank goodness everyone else escaped unhurt.
It is. So Wang will protect Zervis when he gets back up here. Maybe I should send Wang back to help bring him in, as they've been back there for a while. Let's go ahead and just wait for him. Uphill finish. Uphill finish. It is a punchy finish. It's not a sprint finish. You saw the final kilometer, and then you get that right-hander, and there's a little kink on the way up, but it's definitely an uphill finish. We need to, on one of these subsequent laps, we need to test just how steep that is. How long? Oops, Zervis. Thought I was riding with Zervis. I wasn't. I was still riding with Wang, who was way behind. There we go.
A leader is down. The team plans could well be turned upside down. Watch out, a team leader is falling behind.
This could be a Ray Lanu type day, depending on the pace. As this undulation, it's a little more severe than it looks. 11 riders in the break. That's a pretty sizable group. Our gap just a shade under 4 minutes. That's not going to be the easiest to keep in check. Okay, you have a little downhill right there. And then we're going to watch close. 0%, 2%, 3%. Okay, so already we're at 121.3. And it's almost 10%. 121.3. And then, okay, Zervis on the line now. It's 500 meters. Okay, it does drop down to 5%, but that's a 500 meter climb. With a kink just before it, so at about 700 meters.
The pack is increasing its work rate. Some teams can't be happy with the breakaway.
And there's, let's see, 1, 2, that second one being very short, and then 3 hills before the final one, so a 4th hill to the finish line. That you'll get on the final 10 kilometers. Nice little downhill to the finish. Yeah, there's the kink at about 700 meters. And there's that quick rise. It goes up to 8%, drops down to 4, 3.7, and then up to 5 right before the line. So it's brief, and it's 500 meters, but you've definitely got to save the sprint till about 500 meters, maybe 400. Alright, it's a good time to get water for the first time. Let's go ahead and send somebody Raylanu's a good climber, so he can be without Chung for a little bit. Gap under 3 minutes now. Let's go ahead and push forward till later in the race. Alright, so we're into the final 20 kilometers of this race now. Pace has definitely picked up. 83 is just hanging on with that. But my lead-out riders are only... Is this an attack? It is an attack. We're seeing an attack. It's time to respond. 19K. We're going to take over the Peloton now. But we're going to just keep it in check. Let these guys get a little bit away. It's going to eliminate all of them from competition. Yes. We'll get Zervis. Raylanu will get us. Zervis is going to handle the downhill part anyway. Sprinting there. And then we'll have Raylanu on the penultimate hill. Geisha with +4. Wang Chung. What? How did we end up with that combination? Okay, Ochoa. Time to start your work. At 19 kilometers out though, we've got a ways to go and we've got some undulation to cover. So it's okay if they get a tiny gap, but we definitely cannot let that thing get out too far. Those guys are going to make a big effort. And we're going to be calculated. We're going to be measured. We just split off the Peloton. We are off the Peloton. There's 7 of us that have gone clear. Plus the 23 now at the front. Peloton trying to regain contact. It looks like they might have. Pulled us back, and we're about to pull those 23 back, and then we're about to push past them. We're now down to 14 kilometers. Those guys sat up. New attack, fresh attack. We've got to get through. This is going to be the danger zone right here. 1 lap to go. Ochoa gets through. Chung has gone through. Wang is fighting through. There's Magisha. There's Raylanu. There's Uribe. Okay. Wang, the one in the danger zone slightly. 11K. 4 riders that need to be chased back. Ochoa still working, but we're still trying to get the rest of the team through that giant breakaway pack. 10K to go. It's time to speed up for Ochoa. Okay, on to Chung, who I did not get a chance to use his gel in the chaos. That's okay. 9.4K. Still plenty of time to bring this back, and we just saw a split in the field. Let's make sure everybody's here. They are. It's 21 chasing 4, or at least it was momentarily. It's going to be a really, really hard go. 7K. I'm going to start gelling up for these other guys. These little downhill sections. It's time for the minor guys to do some sprinting. Okay. On to Wang. 5.4K. Good time to gel. Ochoa got dropped. It's 11, and we're chasing 3. We've got a great chance at winning this race now. 5.4K to go.
5 kilometers to the finish line. Now the guys up front are asking serious questions of the riders in the rear as more of them are left in the wake. There's a faller in the pack.
Geisha.
The rider is flat on the road.
Geisha lost the wheel there for a moment. 3.8K. Little downhill section. Wang. Give me a sprint. There you go. On to Magisha. 3K. And this is 3 lead-out riders, so we're going to go pretty hard on his sprint here. Wang, get out of the way, please. There's Uribe coming through. Magisha flies on by. I wanted Raylanu for that climb, so we're a little bit off pace. But we'll get an acceleration from Raylanu here briefly. Now Zervis. Remember, we only want to go the last 500 meters with Uribe. I want Raylanu to dive out of the way. Okay, there's 500 meters. Uribe in great shape. Good sprinter. Between him and Zervis, what can we do? Podium? Can we podium? Come on. Well, we got the top 5. We got the top 5. There's punchy guys. Punchy guys who were better, stronger. Oh, Uribe overtakes Alan Banaszak on the way to the line, really close to grabbing third. Really good result, though. I mean, you could taste victory. You could almost sense that there's a shot at it, but punchy ratings came into play in that final 500 meters, and those guys were already bursting past. This was not flat. It was not a sprint. So punchiness matters.
This stage was a real strength sapper.
But we get 4th, we get 5th, we get 13th, 17th, 15th, 20th, and 27th. Even Ochoa was 27th. So very, very strong team performance on that one with a team that's not built for this type of race. But we played the tactics well on that. Good thing we saw that attack when we did, because that definitely broke up the field. They made the move. We responded in kind, but we responded the right way. Moment of truth with every season, and of course this season, starting with zero reputation, signings are fairly difficult for us. We're not going to be necessarily in a better place next season than we are now, with the exception that we're going to go from a bunch of riders that are, many of them older or very, very low potential, to a much better rounded squad that has high potential that we'll actually see development in. Because I've only seen a single level up, or at least only picked up on a single level up on the squad this entire season, and it's already August. So it's a really bad sign that we've gone all this way and Mugisha has only picked up one level and nobody else has. Of course, Uribe, one-man wrecking crew, he's been our show of force, even though he's very, very low on resistance and difficult to manage to get the wins, but he's certainly capable and he's much faster than our other guys. So we'll be looking to re-sign him, even though it's going to cost us a little bit in terms of points. Our biggest limitation right now is going to be transfer points. We get 60. That's it. Because of the low reputation, most of the available riders out there are going to be really expensive, and many of them are in that red category of interest, which means they are unsignable. They need to be yellow, which means they're going to be expensive, or green is going to make them more affordable. Looking at the green, looking at the interest, we have our dossiers, which all but 2 we got into the green. But from here, going straight into those who have 100% interest, we have a single rider at a 69, and he's Australian, so we can't sign him, even though he does have a Japanese name. That already drops us into 66 or below, where we see a lot of 66s. So we can, for little to no cost, sign a bunch of 66s that we don't know anything about. 1-year deals maybe, and kind of fill in with that for the year. But for what we do know about our dossiers and what we've done in terms of scouting, you can see there's only a handful that are above that level. So knowing what we know about riders, we're going to have to go after some that way, but we're only going to be able to extend our top end a little bit. Arroyo, hopefully we can get him signed. Uribe, hopefully we can get him re-signed, and we'll get a little stronger than we were last season, but this is going to be more about the long-term build. I have minimum 4 riders that have high potential that we're going to look to sign, and that's going to be our building blocks for the future. We're still going to be Continental next season. No way we are climbing into Continental Pro. In fact, looking at the index right now, 75th. We're down the order a little ways at the moment. Just 61 points. That's going to rise significantly. We're going to sign at least 3 riders that are, I'd say, of those 5 guys, 69 and above. I hope to sign minimum 3 of those. Even our 2 guys that are on yellow interest, I'd rather spend the points and get them. But I need to evaluate kind of where we're at, what we have. But here's what we have so far. Here's what we know about. I have 4 riders returning for next season. Everybody else has an expiring contract. Of those 4, we have Raylanu and Zervis. So our 2 best lead-out guys, our best climber, our best puncher in Raylanu. So at least we have that returning. So that's 2 of our decent guys. And combined, those 4 are all on minimum contracts, so that's 10,000 total. We have a budget of 85,000, so we have 75,000 to play with, which is a decent amount of money. But I might not be spending all 75K. In terms of scouting reports, we only got so many back. There's only so many writers that are out there that might be worthwhile and might be helpful. I am okay with the fact that this team might not be great next season, and that we might be in a similar situation to what we were this year. But as a small Continental team, thanks to the Nationals, sponsorship confidence should be easy to obtain, meaning we'll have an increased budget again next season, so more money to play with. But that doesn't mean I want to use every penny that we have now, because we need a whole lot of scouting, a whole year of scouting, as opposed to half a year of scouting can and will produce a lot more results in terms of knowing where our writer pool is and who's worth signing and who isn't. Plus, having a year of reputation build should make it a bit more affordable to go after some better writers. And I'd rather wait a year, have a lot of better writers in the future than overdoing it right now and spamming all the money that we have on guys that really just aren't good enough. But one-year deals is another matter. So I'm okay signing some one-year deals on some unknowns and then reassessing in a year where those guys are at and maybe going from there. But it makes it harder. You have to spend more to sign a one-year deal than you do a longer deal. The writers want a longer deal. All right, let's get to it. Let's start evaluating, going through, and we'll start signing some writers. Now, the obvious thing, though, is I want Uribe back, and Mugisha is our 5'8" potential guy who's the only one who has leveled up this year. So first 14 points are going right there. Let's see if we can get those two re-signed, which will give us 6 writers returning, and then everything else will be new signees. Apparently, Uribe is going to be a lot cheaper, maybe due to age, but a 3-year contract would be really nice to keep him around, even if he just ends up being a lead-out writer later on. Okay, money not quite enough. Go 5,000. And there you go, 5,000. So cheaper than what he was making. He was making 6,500 before. And he signed to a 3-year deal. Not that he'll play out the entire career. Not sure how that works. But he will drop in quality. So this is more of a legacy rider for us. I'm not used to re-signing guys in their 30s. I don't know if I've ever done that before. But different gameplay this year. Mugisha, a very easy re-signing. First go. Important writer is all we gave him as well, and signed him for the minimum and for the 3 years, so we're off to a good start. Quick look at the top 29 nations. Now, the reason why I went with 29 was, for one thing, there was a little too much strength in the last 4: Estonia, Kazakhstan, Ukraine, Luxembourg. There was a lot of good writers in there that could have really elevated my team quickly. The huge expansion of pool. So 1, I wanted to limit myself a little bit further, but 2, it gave me another nice rounder, another nice round number. So instead of having top 25 eliminated from choice, from selection to the team for our World Cycling Center team, the top 29, the difference there was A, these 4 squads are good, but B, these are the 29 nations that have 1,000 or more rank points nationally in the actual UCI. Comparatively, in-game, we would look at that as super prestige on a national comparison. So like Eritrea right now sits on 685 points. It's August, the year's not done. You figure they might hit about 1,000 by the end of the year, especially when we get to World Championships and if any of these smaller nations have some success there. But real world, over the course of a year, that's 1,000 points or better is 29 nations. You can see the ones at the top, obviously, are significantly higher. And just like in real life, Belgium ranked number 1. Let's see what happens as I go through and try to sign some more writers. I have 46 points. That's the main thing. The budget, not going to be much of an issue as I've spent 17,500 out of 85. I've got plenty of money to spend, but I only have limited points. Arroyo will only cost me 9. Galvez will cost me 8. Vitosa, one of the high potential guys, even though he's only a 68 overall, will cost me 9. That's one of the ones I want to get after. Let me get to it, and we'll see what happens. I'm through my first day of signings. I have spent 85,500 of the 85,000. We still have 55,000 nearly to play with. But what I've done so far is I've signed 5 young riders with high potential. We have Faitosa. He's a 68 overall. We have Morenzi, Ravenko, Grego, and Gusinyov. So we have a reserve sprinter. We have a weak time trialist. So those guys are domestiques for now. We have another domestique in Ravenko ultimately, but he's a little bit of a lead out guy. Morenzi, little better sprint, 67. Just needs to develop. The resistance is low. He's a little bit punchy. The acceleration's really poor. And then Faitosa as a stage racer who's a 69, 68 mountain and hills, 70 time trial, 66 resistance. So he's coming in to kind of work alongside Raylanu in a similar stance. So we have not built quality yet, but we have 5 high potential guys who are at a similar rating to what we already had within the squad. So we're replacing a bunch of old guys or replacing a bunch of low potential guys with young high potential riders that are all 19 or 20 with one exception of Morenzi, who's 22 and might be slightly developed already. That gives us a very similar to the team we have right now look, but we still have almost 30 points left in terms of the transfer points. It's about 26, 27. And then we still have plenty of budget to play with to go after a couple riders that might actually help push the squad to another level, like Arroyo, who isn't high potential, but is better than what we have and is young enough to at least still level up a bit, which will definitely put him above Uribe, both short and long term. One day later, I've signed 3 more riders. Arroyo, we got him for $7,800 a month, 3-year deal. Moderate potential, but 25 years of age. He's got plenty of level ups still to go, and at 73 overall is going to be a decent puncher for us. 75 hills, 69 acceleration, okay resistance and stamina, and okay recovery. 67 mountain. He's not going to be great. This is not a guy you're going to take into a World Tour race, but at a Continental level, that's going to be pretty competitive. Of course, Uribe will remain competitive for a little while. That if his resistance starts to fall off at all at 32 years of age, it's entirely possible. As that resistance falls at all, though, he's going to be better served as a lead out and not as your sprinter. We brought in Mulabran, Eritrean, 21-year-old puncher with 5'8 potential. And while I hadn't added him to the dossiers, we just got his scouting report back. And part of the reason why we scouted him was because he's already a 69 overall and just 21 years of age. And he's a decent puncher. He's already got a 70 hill, so 65 mountain, 69 acceleration. He's not as good as Arroyo at the moment, but he's 4 years younger with much better potential. So we could see him, maybe not this season, but by next season, overtake Arroyo as our top puncher. So that's 2 quality punchers onto the squad. That's going to make a massive difference. Plus, when you add in Raylanu, who's a bit of a climber, we were a team that was not at all punchy, or very, very little bit of punchiness, and we're going to be much more punchy this next season. So we're going to have sprint capability. We're going to have a bit of punch capability in this next season. We're still not going to be good in GC or in the classics. Time trialing is going to be better than it was, but still not good. Faitosa, with his high potential, should develop pretty quickly and give us that, along with Raylanu. Well, Raylanu's not really going to develop. He's a 68 overall, 28 years of age, and low potential. So Raylanu is a placeholder. He'll be a support rider. He'll be a domestique. But then we also added Debese, Jakob Debese, another Eritrean, another puncher. Not great, not as good. Also not as great on the potential. He's moderate on the potential, but cheap. So for just 3,000, we signed him. So he won't be bad for 3 years, and he'll help us get through this early period. I doubt we'll bother re-signing him in 3 years, but he'll be an okay rider in the short term. And we went from just a few guys who are in that 67 plus range to all of a sudden we're going to have a team full of them. We're going to have 8 guys at 67 plus next season. So we're going to go from a few leaders with some really weak support riders to we'll have an A team and a B team. We'll have a bunch of domestiques still, but definitely a step in the right direction. And I have 10 points left to play with. I'm going to go see if I can find one decent rider who's in that moderate interest that we can sign to a short or medium term deal. It kind of depends on how decent they are, I suppose, on what we're willing to spend. But we might only get one shot because a decent rider is probably going to cost us 9 points. And with only 10 left to play with, that's kind of our last go around. We've got 14 riders right now, so that's a good place to be in. You can handle 2 races at a time with 14. I like to keep a small roster, at least for a while, of about 15 to 17 riders until you get up into the higher tiers. If you haven't figured it out by now, the game is divided up. The point system, it comes in sets. It's not 1 point at a time for the vast majority, and the only time you ever get odd numbers of points is something like this, where an agent increases it proportionally. So 12, 9, 6, 3 points are what's out there. We have 10 points left to play with. So I started looking at those with 9 points. There are no riders rated above 68 in the 9-point category that have yellow interest. There are no riders in the 6-point category that have that sort of rating, and there are no riders in the 3-point category that have the high interest are available to us in our pool. So the guys that we've opened dossiers on, these 3 that I have not talked to, are all that's left. Okay, we've signed all the other ones on this list. These 3 we have not signed. Now, from these 3, here's the situation. Galvez, 20-year-old, classics rider, low potential, but he's a pretty solid rider already. A 70 overall would advance the team index a bit. 72 cobble rating, 70 sprint, 69 in the hills rating, 69 stamina. He'd be an okay classics rider for us, but low potential, so he's never going to grow much. Cost me 8 points, 95% interest, which is the same as 31% in terms of how the game sees that. Moderate interest means he'll cost us a little bit more. As a 70 overall, he might cost me 5,000 or 6,000. That's not bad. Would I want to sign him for 3 years? I don't know. I'll have to think about that. But Galvez, one option. With 8 points, though, that would use up everything we have. We won't be able to sign anybody else. Then we have an option to go after 2 riders. There's a slight advantage already with 2 riders. Both a 69 overall. Kjukovka, or Kjukovki, or Kjukovci? I don't know. Serbian. Kjukovci? Kjukovci, another puncher. We already signed a couple. We already have one in Railanu. Adding depth in punchiness could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. If you have too many punchers, what are you going to do with them? You're going to use them collectively together to try to get through stages, and maybe you'll be more effective, but ultimately you're barking up the same tree. Good resistance already, 69, 19 years old. I haven't got my scouting report back on him, though, so I don't know what his potential is. He could be great. Could be a dud. With him, the package would be Alanderis, 19-year-old. Lithuania is not in the top 25. Let me double check. 35th is their rank. So Lithuania, outside. They're not in the top 29. They're okay. He's got some good acceleration. He's got some decent sprint. He could be a good lead-out rider for us. 63 on the flat. 63 mountains, 70 hill, lower resistance, but he could add to that lead out train that we have. So it wouldn't be bad to go after these guys, and they're both 19 years of age, and Kjukovci could be great. Galvez, 1-4 potential. He's not going to be great, but he gives us a whole nother dimension that we don't have right now. Also, with 14 riders, 15's fine, 16's fine. That part doesn't make much of a difference for me. We want some riders that are going to develop. We want some riders that are going to help us. 2 more punchers with limited potential or unknown for one. Certainly not a bad thing. And Kjukovci could cost us a little extra, but ultimately, I think all three of these guys are perfectly affordable for us. Geronimo Galvez, there's downside, right? Low potential. That's the only downside. He brings a whole nother element to the team as a classics rider. So it's really hard for me to say which direction to go with this. 2 is better than 1. 2 guys right on the heels of Galvez. Kyokovchi with the unknown potential could be great. So might be worthwhile to go after. Alandaris, I mean, you have a little bit of a lead out option in one of those guys. Certainly wouldn't be a bad way to go. Galvez with the limited potential, usually I avoid signing riders like that. But right now we're in a state, if he's cheap, if he doesn't want 20,000, and there's no way he's going to want that. If we're getting him for 5,000 or 6,000, it's not a bad signing for 3 years to have him and give us classics. Riders are hard to come by, especially if they're not Dutch or Belgian, and I can't get Dutch or Belgian riders signed ever. I might really struggle to find classics riders, period. So I might not find many better than a 70 ever in this game. Eventually we're bound to find somebody, but the majority of your classics riders come out of those 2 nations, and we're not going to have access to them. I think I might go with for Galvez for that reason. Even though he's not going to have great potential, for that reason. He's going to build our top 3 profile, and you're looking at him right here. Arroyo, Uribe, and then Galvez becomes your top 3, at least currently. Not that it's going to make a difference to our index in any way, shape, or form, but it'll push us up to a 72, which will still keep us well out of reach of the top. I mean, right now that's on the edge of Continental Pro. By time everybody else is signed, there's no way we'll still be on that edge. We'll be down 50-something, but it's better than where we're at now. Let's give Galvez a shot. We're going to spend our points on him. Let's hope he doesn't ask for stupid money. And he does. We sign him for minimum. There you go. For that, a low potential guy at 70 for a team of our quality, that's a huge boost. I'm actually thrilled with that. I'm thrilled with Galvez, and you never know. He might be a 4 on potential, which means he will develop a bit. He'll hit mid-70s, and for us, a classics rider in mid-70s is pretty serviceable. That's a pretty good, handy, helpful guy to have. That's all the dossier points we have, though, all the transfer points we have. So that's going to be it. That's what we got. We're pushing up in squad size. We got lots of potential, and we got a little bit better as well. I'm happy with those signings. I hope you are as well. Let me know in the comments below if you thought we should have done something else. I guess really the only questionable thing was Kyokovchi or Alandaris as opposed to Galvez. Let me know if you would have gone the same way on that. 4 punchers instead of 2. Potential possibly in Kyokovchi, but we don't really know which way. We could always go after him next year if he doesn't sign with somebody. In the meantime, like I said, other options weren't there. There was no rider in our available pool, as in the countries outside of that top 29, that was rated 69 and better. Not one signable. Reason being, regardless of points, right? Even if they fell into that window of 10 points, if you have under 30, if you have 30% interest or below and are in the red, even if you agree to terms, they refuse to sign. Red is, you're out. You got to get into the yellow to be able to sign somebody. And at 31%, it's the same as Galvez is 95% in terms of how the contract system works. You have red, yellow, green. There might be a percentage, there might be a range. The range means nothing. Red, yellow, green means everything when it comes to actually signing contracts. Red will not sign. Yellow will sign, but it's going to cost you more, or at least it's going to be harder to negotiate. Hence, it costs you more because that's the way you make up for it. And then green, willing to sign at a discount. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to hit that like button. I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.